Wow, that was abrupt. Not even a fade or anything. Hey, we're live! All right, folks, welcome to This is not Iron Sysadmin Podcast, even though you're looking at the Iron Sysadmin Podcast channel. As I do sometimes, I'm hosting the DEFCON 610 Meetup. We meet once a month on the first Wednesday of every month, unless we, for some reason, forget, which doesn't usually happen. I think once. It was that one time. Anyway, if you guys are Iron Sysadmin fans and you're tuning in for an episode of Iron Sysadmin, sorry, that's not tonight, but you should definitely hang out because we're going to have a cool discussion, I think anyway, about an idea that I've had. But first, we're going to talk briefly about what the heck DEFCON 610 is, if anybody doesn't know. We're a DEFCON group. We meet in Easton, Pennsylvania. We've been meeting virtually ever since the pandemic told us we can't meet in person. We're hopefully going to start going back to in-persons soonish, but we can talk about that later, I suppose. But yeah, so that's DEFCON 610. The thing we're going to talk about tonight is I have this crazy idea that I think my community needs a maker space slash technology space slash hacker space, whatever you want to call it. And the idea came up really only like a few days ago. And I really want to see this succeed, but I don't really know where to start, right? So I thought we would just have a quick, maybe not quick, an open discussion about like how do you build like a grassroots interest in a makerspace? How do you make the thing succeed? How do you actually make it sustainable so that like you don't just have your rich uncle paying all the bills, because that's obviously not going to work out for long. I don't have a rich uncle. So yeah, the vision that I have is that this will be a space where folks in this area, which is a relatively small town, I'm not in like some big metropolitan area, can come and learn about technology, can come and use tools that you might find in a makerspace, like a 3D printer, CNC machine, I don't know what the hell, drill presses, like whatever, like things that we think people might need, but are maybe out of some people's reach financially, right? And along with some training about how to use these things safely and successfully, right? Because obviously any tool like this you want to use without losing a finger, and you want to use in a way that you can actually produce something that's of decent quality, right? And then aside from that, like if people want to run classes on coding or hell soldering or like whatever, like this is a space that can happen in. So the big questions are like, where do you start? Like, how do you get something like that moving, and how do you fund it without having to pay a ton of money out of pocket?
So you said something that I never thought of before. You could just start doing this and get people together. I don't know, somewhere for free, a garage, park, something. I don't know, but get enough people interested in it so you could be like, look, all these people want this thing, and then you can go to the town and see if they'll either support it. I know my town has a makerspace through the library system, or a local tech school might want to do that.
Yeah, so that's one resource that I do sort of have in my back pocket. There is a local technical high school. It was a Votech. I went there when I was in high school. It's basically where, I don't want to say it's where I got my start in technology, but it definitely helped. I already had an interest in it before I went there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone there, because when I went to high school in the 90s, a Votech school was definitely not a popular move for anyone who thought they were going to have a career. Guess what? You're all freaking wrong, because it worked out fine for me. Anyway, I serve on a committee there that helps keep them relevant in the technology industry, in the IT industry. So I still have contacts there. So that may actually be a way to get things started. It might even be a place to host the thing. I don't know for sure. And that crossed my
This
mind early on, that they might be a perfect place to host this. But what I don't want is for this thing to have unnecessary constraints on it, right? So if we had our own space, like a warehouse somewhere, someone's barn, a garage, whatever it is, we get to pick and choose the hours, what's there, who's allowed in, that sort of thing, right? Whereas if it's hosted at essentially a high school, there's all kinds of permission that has to be had. There's probably constraints on hours. Like if someone wants to come work at 2 in the morning and it's someone that we trust, I want them to be able to do that, right? Not that we're going to have it staffed at 2 in the morning, but if say you've got some trusted member that has a key to the front door, if they want to come in at 2 a.m. and work on something, then let them do that, right?
There's a makerspace in Jersey City that has that set up. So trusted members can go in there anytime with a key card and do stuff.
Yeah.
They don't have.
Yeah. There's also
the most dangerous tool they have is a drill press. So not bad.
There's another one, I believe in New Brunswick. Fubar Labs has the same model as well. I know that they've had whoever the core members are who are trusted have badge access and they can come whenever. But I think they have a general open hours policy for Saturday open hack or afternoons. If someone can staff it, they can open it up on request, that kind of thing.
So does it? Speaking of members, right? This sort of led my brain down this path, which is sort of a path of sustainability, right? Does it make sense to charge some sort of dues, or does that just assume you from the beginning?
I don't
think it dooms you.
No, the thing with dues is A, you have to pay for the space, and it's going to be money.
Yeah.
But B, if people pay for something, they feel like they have to use it. If you're like free makerspace, people are going to be like, yeah, maybe I'll go next Saturday. But if they're like, shoot, I'm paying $20 a month for this, I got to get my $20 worth, then they'll actually go.
Right.
And it helps to foster some level of ownership instead of it just being a commons.
You've got see what they're seeing. Can you guys hear me?
Kind of. We hear some other voice. Is there some disembodied woman behind you?
And I dropped, didn't I? Can you hear me?
Where? Kinda.
Looks like you guys can hear me, but I can't.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. You can't hear us. That's fun.
Sorry about that. I was in the middle of something. I know you're really looking forward to hearing it, but sorry.
We were totally all right. So I guess we'll continue the conversation, and if you get back, then. So anyway,
the ownership thing, and then the makerspace has hidden costs. Everybody, when they think makerspace, thinks rent and equipment, but really rent, equipment, insurance.
Yeah, insurance is a thing that I didn't think of at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, any of the costs associated with having a building, right? There's going to be utilities, which would mean water, sewer, garbage, right? I mean, that's a thing that you're going to have to deal with. Electricity. I mean, heck, just keeping the place clean.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's one makerspace I went to a couple times, and they had a Thursday night open house, come check it out, and you can use some things, but obviously not dangerous tools. But at the end of the night, the last hour or so, everybody had to clean. So sweep the floors, put the tools away, sort the parts, all that kind of stuff. So that place was cool though, because in the same building there was a meadery and a brewery. So meadery, brewery, makerspace, all in one thing, and supposedly a distillery now too. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
So I guess that answers another question that I was thinking of, right? So if you have a dues system where everyone's expected to be paying dues, and you have quote unquote members that pay dues, how do you keep it accessible to folks? I don't want this to be a thing that's some kind of an elite club that only the people that can afford to be there are there, right? Because this goes back to when I was a teenager living in this town, right? There was plenty of opportunity to go out and find a group of kids to play football with, but there was not plenty of opportunities to learn to solder or to mess around with computers or what. Now we're talking about 80s and 90s here, right? So technology wasn't as prevalent as it is now, and you could argue that technology today is almost ubiquitous. No one really understands how it works anymore, except people like us. They just know how to fire up Roblox or get onto YouTube, right? But that's my point, right? I want those kids that are like, how does this thing that I play Roblox on, how does it work? Like, what's inside of here, right? I want kids like that to be able to walk in off the street, providing that there's someone there to supervise them and, learn something.
I would steal the term from Adafruit. They have what they call Saturday morning cartoons.
Okay.
And Saturday mornings from 9 to noon open.
Yeah.
If your kid, come in free with the parent, no problem. Well, and then have classes because that'll get people interested, and then as somebody who runs it and lives in the town, you can be like, pull the parent to the side and be like, yeah, Johnny's really enjoying this. Don't worry about the dues. You guys can come to school,
Right. Right.
And then you can tell the members, you can also do like, my daughter went to a school for a while, a private school, and they had a thing where they passed the hat and they said, donate for the families that can't afford to go to the school, and we'll pay for the kids to go to the school.
What about like a system where active members or trusted members get to sort of I don't know if I want to call it sponsor, but
mentor? Well, yeah, sponsor would be a
sponsor
thing
might be the word. Like I'm not trying to say like they pay double. I'm trying to say that they see a kid like you just described that can't afford it, but they really enjoy it, and they're just like, yeah, I vouch for this kid.
Well, they don't even have to. You don't even have to do that. You
Yeah.
could just have it as another tier with your thing.
Yeah.
$20 a month normal, $25 a month. Sponsor a underprivileged or whatever you want to call it.
I guess there could just be like a bring a friend program, right?
Yeah, that too.
You know what I mean?
You can do it like the shooting range. Your membership is $25, and you can get a guest pass for another 20.
Right.
Or 15 or so. I don't know. I'm just pulling numbers out of the air.
Yeah, right. So I guess it really all comes down to like the core thing here is there has to be interest, and there has to almost be proof of interest.
Yeah, that's why doing it free, like through the library or something, would be cool. Like
Yeah.
you could start with safe things like coding.
Yeah.
Or bring in your 3D printer if you can move it and set it up without any whatever, and just be like having a 3D printer day and name it your makerspace, whatever you're going to call it, and then just start generating interest.
A couple things I want to add. The first thing is that going back to your concern about charging people to be members, I think there should be limited access to like people who are members. They have special access to certain things, like you mentioned that like dangerous equipment in one of the places you've been to. That seems reasonable. Like just restricting access to things that were, not, that you didn't pay for because you're not a member, but you can maybe participate in like meetups. That makes sense. But also, one thing I'm doing is I have this whole virtual community on Discord. I have a math and physics server I started up with what was his Corbin. I started that up with Corbin, and that's been going pretty well. Unfortunately, with COVID, things have been slow, but our goal with that server is more or less to open source and crowdsource insights from projects and collaborative work we do with people that are interested in like data science and math and physics intensive stuff. So, across the board, involving technology and what have you. So I think, from what I'm trying to do with Corbin, we're trying to do this virtually and not at a high expense of owning a whole space, but also we have people on our server that are all across the world too.
Yeah.
Originally, it started as a regional thing, but I think, and this is probably a point that Eric might bring up, is that, how do you deal with people that want to join the meetups and that they're not sure if they want to be a part of the maker space or what have you. I don't have too much experience. I don't really have experience with that, but I just figured I'd bring up what me and Corbin have been doing, which is pretty cool. And we do that virtually, but I would also suggest like restricting certain things to do in the maker space rather than restricting people being a part of certain meetups or restricting certain types of meetups for certain members. I figured I'd bring that up, but anyway, I don't know what else I would recommend at the moment, but I figured I'd bring those points up. I don't know if that's helpful, but just figured
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like you can use the space, you can use certain things, but like obviously safety training, that one space you had to be a member, and then you had to go through two weeks worth of safety training or 2 meetings worth of safety training.
Yeah, so
you know how
like,
to use the stuff, and also so the owners of the space could evaluate your technical skill.
Yeah,
because sure, I know how to use a drill press versus right through the hand.
Yeah, right. It's like when you're in the Cub Scouts, you got to get your whittlinship before you can use a pocket knife. Yeah,
Perfect.
Same idea, same concept.
I just Googled your town and the word technology.
Yeah.
Corporate sponsor, Purple Audio. Holy crap. They make high-end audio gear in your town.
Really?
Yep.
No way.
Like equalizers, mixers, like wow stuff, cool stuff.
That's interesting.
So they would obviously, there's some people there who probably want to be members, and you've got some super duper electronic nerds too.
I'm gonna have to jot that down because I didn't even know they were in the area.
Yeah, they're based there, and this is like.
You sure you got the right town? I mean, don't say it on the stream.
Yeah, I checked. I checked the thing. Let me try sharing the screen. Give me a second here because I'm kind of shitty with this. Let's see this whole Discord thing. There we go. Go live. So this is a modular audio. Is my stream running or no?
Yeah, I'm just trying to. There we go.
There we go. Yeah. So this is a modular audio system. Like make your own mixing board, and they also have a rack mount version. So it's a edge connector, but then all the components on here, these are like super high end components, and it's made in your town, which is unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. In fact, I'm honestly having trouble believing it.
Like
I'm gonna Google these folks right now.
Yep. And I'm gonna have to return your camera and see if I can go like visit.
Also there should be a theme, like a main theme for your maker space, because one time I visited Canada for a couple hackathons, and there was this hacker space in Montreal called, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Fulab. And they have this whole retro thing where there's all these old computers and all these old retro devices from like 40 to 50 years ago. So it's cool. It would be cool if you have like a theme for the makerspace too, like having a main theme to like kind of give it a, character. I don't know if you had that in mind as well, but that's when I think of a makerspace or a hackerspace, I think of what kind of theme, what kind of underlying theme is there?
Yeah, what makes it more attractive than just a warehouse with tools in it, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, that sounds. And by the way, hey guys, I'm back.
Hey, look who's back! Are you still in your helicopter?
Yes, I am. I think that's a good idea in terms of at least the decor of the place. Like, if you want it to be a place that people spend time and hang. Yeah, don't just make it a bunch of white walls. An office building, I definitely get that. I would spend time. Go ahead.
The physical space that you find is going to determine how far you can go in any particular direction. You know, if you get some really nice raw warehouse space, you can go nuts. But if you're in some kind of like share office building kind of thing, you're gonna have to like tone it down.
Yeah. Dude, you're not kidding. These guys are literally downtown.
Yep.
They moved from New York. I'm looking at their about page. They moved from New York to like a crap hole of a town that's near the town I live in, and now they're in the town I live in. That's crazy. I had no idea.
And this is like, my God, this stuff is great.
I'm gonna
Anyway,
see.
sorry.
I'm gonna have to see if they want to sponsor a podcast too. Anyway,
They'll replace that crappy mixer of yours. with
yeah, that
something really
terrible
nice.
mixer I'm using. Yeah.
They're gonna look at that and be like, "Excuse me."
Anyway, yeah.
Matt, back to you.
So right, where was I going to go next? Now I'm distracted by the fact that there's actually technology in my town, because that's always been one of my complaints about being here. Right, it's a great place to live. It's a nice little town. Obviously, I get to work remotely from here now, so technically, I get to work from here. Although I don't think any of that is actually on the books as technology employment in this town. But anyway, the industry here is mainly tourism, because there's a bunch of old buildings, there's a bunch of old places. It's a quaint little town, right? There's a train that you can go ride. And most of that is because when the coal industry dried up in this area, the whole town was too poor to get rid of all the buildings, right? So it all just kind of sat here and decayed for years. And then people were like, let's fix it up. People are interested in this stuff now, and became a tourist place, right? But that's what the whole town focuses on. They focus on the tourism industry. So, anytime somebody's trying to do something that's like not directly benefiting tourism, it doesn't get any support, from the town. But
So I did have a,
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say finish your idea, but I have an idea.
Well, I was going to say like that was one of my thoughts for funding, right? Was to show that this will benefit the community, and then try to get either some kind of grant money or get the town to back it in some way, get the local schools to back it. I don't know. Maybe they just want to do it themselves. They wouldn't want to have a third party doing this kind of thing. But yeah, that was just kind of a thought I had. I just don't know how successful it'll be because of the things that I just mentioned.
Oh, there may be a way that you can do something that helps benefit tourism at the same time that you're helping promote this space.
Yeah.
There was something that I saw that Easton had been doing. I wish we jumped on it, but they had some sort of like public art program where like if you told them what you wanted painted on a wall somewhere in Easton and you could justify it, they'd give you money and like put the art up.
That's cool.
They're still doing
It's
that.
great to have the number 610 somewhere up on the wall. Some sort of, it's beautiful, but it's also a sly ad for the maker, or well, in our case 610. But if you can find something like that where you can tie it in and say, look, our maker space has, I don't know, find some artist who wants to use the space to build something. Maybe there's a way you can tie that in and say, look, you fund us a little bit, we give you a piece of public art that's somehow tied into the theme of the space, or you, something like that. It's a half-baked idea, but meeting them halfway and saying, this is how we think we can help you draw people into the town. I don't know. I'm thinking of a giant metal dragon statue that moves and blinks and shoots fire.
Perfect.
It doesn't have to be that, but
no, it would have to look like a steam engine or I don't know, something related to the coal industry.
I had a thought of it.
Yeah, if there was some reason for tourists to come specifically to the space, that would be cool.
Yeah, that was one of the things that somebody I was talking to, the first, like the moment I had this idea, I was chatting with somebody, and they're like, "Oh, well, why don't you just somehow make it a tourist attraction?" I'm like, "Well, how in the hell do you turn a makerspace into a tourist attraction?"
I think Matt had it. You just have to have a thing. Like if it was okay, so everybody likes selfies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you had a giant thing that was safe and
That
people
didn't-
could interact with a
that didn't
QR
shoot
code
fire,
and
yeah.
control it and then do selfies,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
that would be huge. Because they'd be in town for stupid thing, antique crap with mom and dad. Then they'd be like, "Oh my god, that thing is in this town. Let's go check it out." And then they'd find out about the makerspace.
There's a pneumatic dragon across town.
It's violent.
Can we go
It
see the
killed a bad
pneumatic
accident.
dragon?
It killed somebody last year, or so we hear.
Yeah, right. Just spread rumors that it randomly eats children.
I do wonder if that's a sustainable way of funding the space, but it might be at least a way to kickstart it. Because
Yeah, or at least get interest, maintain interest in it.
Yeah. So like the sustainability side of me thinks that renting a space is method for disaster, because that means every month there's a thing that if you can't afford, you're done. Right?
Yes.
Whereas finding a way to get a space, no matter how adequate or how big, that is yours, that you can somehow find funding to just outright purchase.
Or borrow. There might be some farmer with an old pole barn that's just like, "Oh, I don't use this."
Yeah.
And then you just make a deal with them, like, "We'll throw money at you best we can." Like, this is our target, but
yeah.
Another thing that would make this makerspace attractive to the town is it's going to attract tech people. It's going to get kids interested in technology, which will then lead to kids getting jobs in technology and getting jobs in town in technology. So, you get a couple high school kids with a really great idea in there. They build their really great idea, and all of a sudden now you've got an incubator for,
Yeah.
Which is another thing you could do, which I don't think it'll work so well because of where you are, but the makerspace in Philly, Fab Lab, I think it's called, they have an entire, one of their floors, they have like 5 business incubators. So if you have a product or something, you can rent that little space out, use the entire facility, but you can run your business out of that little space. And there were some guys who made like a really genius air conditioner window unit that was like only this tall. It just fit in the bottom of the window. And they started it there, and then they got too big and they left. But
that's not a bad problem.
I don't know if you have business incubator kind of thing, but
yeah, I feel like what we want to build should be the primary focus and function of it. And like that sounds like a cool idea, but the amount of effort you need to put in to something like a business incubator is probably for a later phase once you've got your feet underneath you doing like having a space.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, is that the whole thing needs to be more of a phased approach. Like, everybody wants to have the cool thing on day one, but how realistic is that, right? So like all this cool stuff, all the cool equipment, maybe it starts out with like, I mean, honestly, if DEFCON 610 were closer to where I am, it could start there. The problem is most of our members are in the Lehigh Valley. You're all an hour or more away from me, right?
Yep. And if it was here, we have a place to do it.
Yeah, right.
You're up there.
Right. And that could be another way to go, but the downside to that is, right, so part of the reason I'm part of this group is because I used to work right there 5 minutes from where we meet, right? And that's not going to change, right? Now I'm part of this group now. I'm not going to drop out of it because I don't work in Easton anymore, but coming down there even like once a week to hang out at the makerspace would become problematic. Whereas if it's 5 minutes away from me across town, not only does it benefit the community that I've lived in literally my entire life, it's close by, and it makes it more realistic for me to be able to manage the thing.
I think you're going to need a core group who can dedicate that kind of time.
Yeah.
And hopefully lives close enough to be able to do that on a regular basis. Because there's a lot of heavy lifting that has to be done, like behind the scenes, to operate a place like this. It doesn't exactly run itself. And
Yeah, there's a couple folks that live right here in town that I have in mind for just exactly that, and they may have contacts that I'm not thinking of that would also be interested. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
And to be honest, members of 610 that are not too far from where I am would be perfectly welcome, right? Like I think we've got a member in Palmerton, which is
Yep.
not
And Scranton.
it's not like close. Well, Scranton is like 45 minutes to an hour for me. Might
Well,
even be longer.
Guys,
But
where you guys are in reality and where you are in my head are two different things.
yeah, it's like you're that way. You're all in each other's backyard, right?
Right. I had a great idea. Pop-up makerspace. So you just make the thing so you can easily, make it portable, so to speak. And then you can just do it in different places.
Yeah.
Like maybe a church will let you use their, the church basement, or what is that? The war veterans people, what are they called?
Like the American Legion.
Yes, American Legion. We all blanked on it at the same time. Yeah.
I've been up since 2 a.m. Okay, and I've been on video calls literally since 8 a.m. nonstop. So
Yeah.
I'm a bit fried today.
It's okay. I almost said Justice League, so don't worry.
It's the Justice League. Maybe they'll help.
Wait, you do comic books at your work too? But yeah, just make a pop-up makerspace so you don't have to have a place for it, and then people can follow you on social media to find it, and you can publish it and all that crap until you get big enough to have a spot, and then
yeah,
and then you're all set. Like how much is a big trailer? By you, probably pretty damn cheap. You can get a used big trailer pretty cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to picture like how the heck would you make a makerspace in a way that it does not require a dedicated space. Like
you would have the stuff that you would need, and you would just do a theme night.
Yeah,
like, oh, we're doing 3D printing at the church, and then you would bring the thing. Oh, was that a child?
We have a unicorn.
May you check our room, please?
When I'm done here, okay? A leopard unicorn. Go on. Anyway, we were saying, all right, so how do you make a makerspace portable, right? And it's not. No, now there's another one. Oh, you've got. Which is that? Just the panda you've got, or is that the panda raccoon? No, it's just the panda. Okay. They have this stuffed animal that's like half panda, half rainbow raccoon. It's weird. You get two pandas, even a small panda. Ow! That panda hit me. Anyway. But you're right. I guess the idea of a trailer would work, but then that's an investment in itself to get like a box trailer. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but I'm figuring you can probably find a used trailer by you pretty cheap, and and I'm just thinking like then you would have a place to keep the stuff when you weren't having a meeting.
And then you tow the trailer to the place, you unload the stuff into the place you're having the meeting at, set it up, do your thing.
And only do like, oh, we're going to do soldering this week. So you pull out the soldering stuff, or we're going to do 3D printing just until it gets going. And then once it's going, now you have a trailer that you can bring to a school,
Right.
And like today, we're going to teach you kids how to burn your hands. I mean, how to solder.
Yeah. Don't hold it like that picture on the internet.
Yes. In every picture on the internet.
I think what we're kind of talking around, though, is that you don't want to put down a terrible amount of money until you've got a not a user base, but a community who will use the space.
Right.
Yep.
So it sounds like you want to start off as a meetup group and then build to a certain number, and then once you've got those people who are already excited about it, who are into the idea of the space, then you put down the cash. Then you start investing in hardware, because if no one shows up the first day and you've invested all the money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is I need to found a DEFCON group.
But I'll be honest with you, the way that Central Jersey NJ created itself is because people kept going to tool meetings and they kept saying, we wish we had a meeting for X.
Yeah.
And that's how that came into being. It wasn't like someone set up a meeting and then tried to bring all the people there. It came organically from the people who already had an interest in it. So That's what I
If
would
you
recommend.
build it, they will come.
Right. But then you find your people, you bring them together, and you say, "This is the idea," and you see if it'll fly. And kind of on that note, another thing I think you might want to lay down before you put together a space is a code of conduct.
Yep.
Yeah.
It sounds like the most tedious, boring thing, but I promise you, you will wish you had one.
Yeah, I think in the InfoSec community, we've seen the lack of code of conduct game play out.
Oh yeah.
Or
Over and
thing
over and
play
over
out
again.
many, many times.
Yeah.
And even people with codes of conduct were like, "Oh shit, we got to update this."
Gotta add that. Didn't think of that one.
Didn't think people were that big of an asshole, but I guess I was wrong.
Yeah. It should not be hard to find a workable code of conduct that you
Yeah,
can.
right. I mean, at this
if you
point, you
need
can
to.
find them anywhere, right? Anywhere, anyone that
Right.
runs a conference is going to have a code of conduct, and that might apply.
Yep. It's like everything we do at work, guys. You just copy and paste it off the internet.
Yeah,
Change
right.
the
Oh,
word.
I need a HIPAA policy? Copy paste.
I need a what was my one today? Where we're standardizing all our labeling and stuff. So I'm like, I swear I did it and I couldn't find it anywhere, and I was yelling at somebody because they were trying to do something stupid. I'm like, read the damn thing, and I couldn't find it. I'm like, I'll find it. And then this morning I'm like, oh, I never actually did it.
I just did it in my head. I didn't really do it.
Yeah, it was done in my head because the thing on the internet was so close, and I just took the thing from the internet, copy, paste, changed a few words, adjusted it to our parameters, and then boop, posted, done.
The number of times I have sworn that I had finished a task, and it was really just that I thought through the task but never actually executed.
Amen, brother.
Like, what do you mean? I totally took the garbage out. No, it's still sitting in the backyard in the bags you put it in.
I think we need a support group.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I think that's your first step, man. Do some grassroots stuff. See if there's interest.
Yeah, I guess I probably already knew that that's the place to start. It's just good to hear it, right? Because it didn't, like, my brain immediately went to the how and not the who.
Yeah, and that's the way we're wired.
Yeah, right.
know?
I have a problem to solve. I must solve the problem. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do I build the infrastructure part and not who's going to be there when I build it? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. There's no members, but check out the awesome website.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
This website, man, it's like super redundant. It's in the cloud in 3 different providers. Man, if Asia gets knocked off the planet, our website stays up. How many members you got? None. Anyway.
I also, and I'm going through the boring, I shouldn't say boring, but the necessary parts as well. I don't know if you have a particular style in which you want to manage the space, but I would put in some sort of guiding principles document, some sort of elections document. I mean, I'm trying to think of the word for it, but basically like a constitution, kind of.
Charter.
Let's go with that, because expectations of how power transfers, because you may not be there the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
How an election will be run, because sometimes those can get messy if you haven't got the rules laid out for how are they going to work. Do we allow this? What happens if there's a tie? That sort of stuff. Again, you might be able to find somebody who loves those kind of details in a technical group. There's always one.
Yeah.
And work with them to draft something like that. And again, it's stuff that you hope you don't have to go back and refer to all that often, but having one to refer to when you need to use it is important.
Yeah.
But also, those are also sorts of, you can probably find a boilerplate version that will work for you. You have to figure out what roles you want to have in your executive board. Probably a president and a vice president, treasurer, and then whatever roles you deem necessary. You probably want some sort of, I guess, quartermaster or someone who manages the hardware, chief engineer maybe is a word for it.
Yeah.
There's probably roles as you see what needs to get managed by someone like a not full-time job, but on a regular basis, that's where you start putting together your elected or appointed positions so that you've got someone who you can point to and say, this is your responsibility, go do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the thought had crossed my mind that this thing almost needs something like a board. Like
Yeah.
a group of trusted folks who are in from the ground up that help make decisions about the stuff we're talking about right now. Like from the simple stuff like how we pay in the water bill this month to the bigger stuff like what's the next piece of equipment you're buying to like how does the thing just get founded and put together, right?
I don't know. Have you heard of any of the talks that were given probably a decade ago on the makerspace movement when it was first sort of kicking off?
I don't think so. I
There
did
were
have
some talk.
I did have a very long discussion with Mr. Blinky Bling, if anybody knows him from the who he runs a hackerspace in Louisville, right? So I was at DerbyCon the one year and I actually had a long chat with him. But to be honest, it's years ago now and I didn't take notes, so it's all kind of foggy. But anyway, you probably had a point.
The cool thing about him is he will have that conversation with you again any old time.
Oh, absolutely. He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
He does. He helped Thea with their soldering kits.
Yeah.
And that whole thing wouldn't have happened if I couldn't have figured all that crap out. Like she did the design and then they took it and they took care of the manufacturing and sourcing LEDs and fitting stuff to her requirements for the LEDs. Because the first round of kits we had, if anyone has the original ones, they are blinding. And when you've got little kids making these, the first thing they do is they take these, they put the battery in it and they point it right at their face. And these LEDs are like super bright and super focused. It's like a flashlight. And you're like,
yeah, right.
We need to tone that down. So they went out and they tried all kinds of crap. They probably spent a ton of money buying different LEDs to find something that worked and
not as blinding.
Yeah.
Add a couple resistors in line to sort of tone it back.
There you go. Now we're going to learn how to make a light dimmer.
There's already a current limiting resistor in it, so.
Okay. Yeah, potentiometer might not be bad.
Yeah.
There's an idea that crossed my mind, maybe as a second phase thing, but in terms of fundraising, I think some spaces do have, like, they sell or resell kits for people who are interested in soldering and electronics. It's an idea. And if you have your own hardware kits that you've made yourself and be like, this is the, I don't even know what you call it. This is the hackerspace specific branded Arduino. This is the hackerspace specific blinky lights kit for first time people who are soldering.
Yeah, right.
Or here's some great little project, STEM project in a box that you can take home and save for a rainy day. And when it's raining out and the kid's all pissed off, you can pull it out and be like, here, let's do this thing.
Yeah. Well, this has been a cool conversation. We've been going at it for like 45 minutes already. I don't know. Any final thoughts? And then we don't have a second conversation to have, but we'll probably just cut the stream off and we'll have our usual social time.
Yeah, I would recommend you go dig up the talks. There was one in particular that was given at Hope, and I wish I remembered the year. But it was when makerspaces were big, and I know I was sitting there taking notes because I thought it'd be an awesome idea to try and set one up. I think I was still in college at the time.
Yeah.
But a lot of the questions of governance, of funding, of space were all discussed in the talk, and this is them talking about their own experiences and what worked for them. So.
And
I think the more perspectives you can get a hold of on people who have actually done this, and like maybe reach out to the Philly space, reach out to the one FUBAR Labs or any of the other ones, get their experiences. I think you'll probably learn a lot of things you just hadn't thought of might be a problem.
Yeah, the Psychophantic has all the Hope talks on a server. So once you find it, he's got it. Then I was thinking, oh yeah, there's a good edge case things you don't think about. So this one makerspace had an electric forge, or not forge, a thing you
You'll say
heat
an
metal
electric
up.
forge. That would be one hell of a heating element.
It was electric, but and you would, it was like for dentists to melt.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking like
Right?
an
Oh,
iron
okay.
forge. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So these kids or folks or whatever came in with a bunch of aluminum and just started melting aluminum down and then pouring it into ingots.
Yeah.
And that forge wasn't designed to do that. So
Right.
they broke the forge.
Yeah.
And then while they were pouring ingots, they spilled and like wrecked the floor. And
Yeah.
like, wood floor. So there's a huge burn in it. It's like just crap you don't think of,
At least they didn't pour it on each other.
I'm sure it almost happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another one, that same makerspace, I went there a few times, and there was this couple who took they had a laser cutter thing. They took that thing over all day, every day, and they were running their own little, wedding photo business out of it. They were wedding photographers.
Yeah.
So they were making stuff for clients, but they monopolized the machine.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like, I had that thought myself, right? So it would be really easy for me to turn this thing into an extension of my own workshop, right? Because I have needs for things like I would love to have a plasma table to cut steel with, right? Like that'd be a cool thing to put in a hackerspace, but how many people are going to need that? And am I just going to spend all of my time printing out or cutting out parts for my Jeep? You know what I mean?
I can answer that right now. Yes.
Yes. Right. Right.
But
And I know we're
again,
probably coming up on time, but one thing I did listen to a podcast recently. I think Malicious Life did like a 3-parter on The Loft, and those original old school hacker guys up in Boston, and they built something that resembles a hackerspace, but I think it wasn't quite as an open thing. Like it was the people who are in the know, the friends, the close people that you can kind of. It's easier to vet. It's easier to deal with personality problems. Maybe if it isn't quite as an open thing.
Yeah.
I would consider that if ultimately if you give it a good think and what you find out is all you want is a place to put your own toys, maybe it doesn't have to be a public thing. Maybe you just find the friends who are willing to fund that private thing and you do that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Because otherwise there's a lot of other overhead that comes with it.
I've already got that. It's just that it's a much slower process because I'm funding it all myself, right? I've already got my own 3D printer, my own welder, my own drill presses, my own circular saws, right? And those are all the things that fit with my hobbies. My point is, yes, I want all of that. I want access to really neat tools, but that isn't the core reason here. The core reason here is that I think there is a lack of public spaces for kids to do this kind of stuff, or not even kids. I don't care if it's, an adult who just like, I've always wanted to learn to do this thing, right? And now I can go learn it at the makerspace, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the motivation behind it. And while, yes, I'm sure if we get a plasma table, I will be using it to cut out bracketry for my Jeep. It's not the goal.
Okay. Cool.
But that goes back to the thing. Like if you're an owner, trusted member, or whatever, then you can go in off hours when you're not going to monopolize the equipment from other people, and you can do your thing.
Yeah.
And you also, with that, take the responsibility. If you break it, you fix it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. So this has been fun, and believe it or not, there's a single person in our chat who's already reached out to me because he thinks he's in the same area we're in, and he's in, or they. I don't know if it's a he or she. So Ogre Ninja with a lot of letters or a lot of numbers in your name. Thank you for reaching out, and I'll definitely be in touch. So. Yeah, this has been a cool conversation, folks. Like I said, if you're not familiar with DEFCON 610 and you're in like the Northeast PA area, or if you're watching this thing, him. Thank you. If you're in that region and you want to help me start a makerspace, reach out. You can find me on Twitter. I am at Gangrif, Gangrif. It's probably the best way to reach out. That's not going to involve a lot of personal information.
And DEFCON 610 meets first Wednesday of the
Yep.
month at Two Rivers Brewery. Next month we're going to do in person. See how that goes. We get there 6 o'clock. We hang out 7 o'clock if there are talks. That's when those happen, and then we go until everyone goes home.
Yeah, it follows roughly the same format we tried to follow tonight, which was we all got together on Discord at 6, started talking, and then at 7 this went live. This would have been the slot we were doing talks in. We're talking about trying to either, I mean, maybe live stream, but at the very least continue the Discord element so that folks that have started to join us remotely during the pandemic are still going to be able to join us when we're back in person. I know it won't be the same as being able to hang out and drink awesome beer with us, but that's a thing that we're going to try to keep.
Yep.
So, all right. So this has been fun, folks. Like I said, if you want to reach out to me, I'm Gangrif on Twitter. If you want to follow DEFCON 610, it's just DEFCON 610 on Twitter. We have like a Meetup page. I think that's still a thing, right? And that's where you should be able to find info about how to join the meetup if you're in the region and when we're meeting and where and whatnot. So, yeah, this has been great. So, thanks everyone who did watch live, even if there was only one of you. This will stay up on probably on the Iron Sysadmin channels at least until I live stream something else. So, all right, cool. I guess I'll go back to the waiting page for a couple seconds and then we'll go off.
And we'll talk amongst ourselves.
Then we'll talk amongst ourselves. So good night, everybody.